I personally cancelled the wedding we'd planned for 5 years, simply because my fiancée was captured in a viral video, kneeling to wipe down her first love, the one she never got over, the man she yearned for but couldn't have. That moment of public humiliation utterly shattered my dignity as a groom-to-be. When she feebly tried to explain it away as merely helping out as a caregiver, I silently did 3 things: cancelled the reception, sold the wedding home, and blocked her permanently. Now I hear she's begging that man to take her in, only to be publicly called a tramp. Meanwhile, as I walked into an upscale restaurant, holding my pregnant wife's hand, she could only flee in panicked disarray. The cruelest revenge in this world is to make the betrayer witness your phoenix-like rebirth firsthand. **** enabling my ex-fiancée to be a caregiver for her first love. After our breakup ***, a week before the wedding rehearsal, my fiancée, Chloe Reed, suddenly disappeared. I went through the entire solo performance with the MC by myself, only to see Chloe Reed's image on social media. In the viral video, she was kneeling by a hospital bed, wiping down Julian Thorne, her first love, the one she never got over. The towel in her hand reached under the covers, carefully wiping a concealed area. Julian Thorne lay on the bed, his hand stroking her long hair. Chloe Reed had trauma-induced anxiety. Normally, even a slight touch from a stranger would trigger a reaction, yet at that moment, she looked up, offering him a comforting smile. Suddenly, I lost all interest in confronting her. I turned off my phone, and cancelled the wedding reception. After dealing with the cancelled reception, I got home close to midnight, turning on the TV. News about the genius painter Julian Thorne's return to the country, and subsequent car accident was everywhere. In the interview footage, Chloe Reed was clinging to him, leaning against Julian Thorne, her hand tightly clutching his left, tears filling her eyes as she looked at him. I pressed pause, staring at her body nestled in another man's embrace. 5 years, and she had never come this close to me. As a child, Chloe Reed had been molested by a neighbor, leading to severe trauma-induced anxiety. Any contact with the opposite sex would trigger a reaction, ranging from mild nausea and trembling to severe panic, delirium, or even unconsciousness. In intimate moments, even if I just reached out to lightly touch her hair, she would scream uncontrollably, telling me to get away. I loved her, and I was willing to wait for the day she fully recovered. I lowered my head, tears silently hitting the cold floor. For 5 years, Chloe Reed, whom countless hospitals couldn't cure. It wasn't that she couldn't overcome it, she just didn't want to overcome it for me. Half a month ago, when Julian Thorne suddenly decided to return to the country, they began their endless communication. At first, they secretly texted late at night behind my back, then she simply demanded I postpone our wedding dress fitting, just so she could go pick up Julian Thorne at the airport. Chloe Reed's wedding dress was custom-made. Postponing would leave no time for alterations. That was the first time I argued with her hysterically, even threatening to break up. For 5 years, I let her have whatever she wanted, never once losing my temper with her. I thought her nod at the time was out of sympathy for my sensitivity. Now, looking back, it was nothing more than contempt for my unreasonable behavior. She never cared about our wedding. This relationship was my one-sided wishful thinking, from beginning to end. On TV, a reporter extended the microphone to Julian Thorne, ambiguously asking, "Master Julian, can you comment on the recent video of this lady wiping you down? With such intimate contact, when are you two getting married?" Chloe Reed's eyes suddenly widened, her cheeks instantly flushed crimson, and she kept burying her face into Julian Thorne's embrace. Julian Thorne raised his right hand, which was in a cast, attempting to cover her, and chuckled. Satisfied with this implied confirmation, the reporters furiously clicked their camera shutters, watching the bashful Chloe Reed. I fiercely wiped away my own tears. For 5 years, I sympathized with her illness, fearing she'd have emotional reactions if she interacted with male colleagues at work, so I agreed to let her resign and stay home, bearing all our living expenses. My parents disapproved of us being together, even refusing to attend the wedding, and I, to treat her illness, to indulge her hobbies and high-quality lifestyle, even worked multiple jobs every day, giving her all the money I earned. Now, having woke up from a long dream, my foolish delusions should come to an end, I took out my phone, and sent a message to Chloe Reed, "Let's break up." In the early morning, I suddenly sprang out of bed, startled by a gaze. Under the light I turned on, Chloe Reed quickly hid the displeasure in her eyes. This was her first time coming to my room at night. For 5 years, she couldn't even stand me touching her hand. Cohabiting was out of the question for us. Now, wearing a silk slip dress, she pressed her lips together, as if making a huge decision, and sat on the bed, moving closer to me. Are you mad because you've waited too long for me? Her fingers poked my arm repeatedly. Remembering how she clung to Julian Thorne's arm, I recoiled in disgust. You saw the news. Julian Thorne and I are childhood friends. It's not like I am married to you. Can't I even help a friend? Helping to wipe him down naked, is that it? Are all the caregivers dead? Your friendship is truly magnificent. I couldn't help but retort, then turned off the light, waiting for her to leave. But she stood there, stunned for a few minutes, then pressed her body against mine. Her warm body trembled with fear against my back, her breath stirring my neck. I resolutely turned and pushed her away. The pained expression on her face hadn't even had time to fade when she blurted out in surprise, using a breakup to force me. Isn't this what you wanted all along? Before me, she stood with her eyes closed in despair, waiting for me to approach, her image overlapping with the scene on TV, where she shyly nestled against Julian Thorne. Finally, I couldn't control myself, and rushed to the bathroom, vomiting until I was dizzy. That's enough. Ethan Miller, isn't this just because I won't sleep with you and making trouble for nothing? How are you any different from that disgusting man who molested me? She chased me barefoot, standing behind me and yelling. I leaned over the toilet, turning to look at this woman in disbelief. For 5 years, when we first got together, she would actively try to overcome her psychological barriers, proactively reaching for my hand. But each attempt would end with her horrified screams. As she retreated into a corner, I never forced her. Instead, her tears after each failure broke my heart. She would cry, curled up in a corner, repeatedly murmuring that she loved me, that she would definitely recover, and would rush into my arms the moment she did. My friends would often tease me, asking if I had some hidden ailment. Since we lived together for 5 years but slept in separate rooms, fearing I might hurt her, I never defended myself. We visited most of the renowned hospitals in the country, and to cure her, I poured all my earnings into her treatment as if money were water. Unexpectedly, she did get better, but the first person she rushed to was Julian Thorne. Seeing me stare at her in silence, she softened her voice and crouched in front of me. At that distance, it seemed she really had improved a lot. Caregivers are clumsy. Who can trust them to look after Julian Thorne, who just got injured? You know how important his hand is to him. It's not too much to ask for a friend to help, is it? It was my fault for not going to the rehearsal today. Next time, can't we go out together? She extended her hand again, trying to take mine, but I instinctively recoiled into the corner. Those hands I'd wanted to hold for 5 years had just wiped another man's private parts today, and it was uploaded online for the whole world to see. How long are you going to keep this up? Stop using your filthy mind to interpret my pure friendship with Julian Thorne. Chloe Reed, whose attempts to reconcile were repeatedly rejected for the first time, finally flew into a rage, jumping up and pointing at me, about to start yelling. Her exclusive ringtone suddenly rang. She dodged into the living room, said a few words, then turned back to me, and continued yelling. Helen Miller isn't feeling well. I am going out for a bit. The world finally fell silent. I thought I would feel heartbroken and sad, but my heart was incredibly calm. That ringtone was unique, specifically set for Julian Thorne. Because of that ringtone, we had even given each other the silent treatment for a week, and she still hadn't changed it. Ultimately, she couldn't even bother to put effort into being perfunctory. That night, Chloe Reed didn't return, and I didn't call her frantically or pester her to come home like I usually did. When she didn't show up at the wedding rehearsal, she had already made her choice. I messaged my few friends, informing them about the wedding cancellation. I started packing my bags. The room was filled with things, yet only a small bag belonged to me. Standing in the entryway, I looked back one last time at this home that belonged to Chloe Reed and me. The house was secretly bought with financial support from Helen Miller initially. I was the only child in my family, and my parents had always run a business in the South. Chloe Reed refused to go back with me, and my parents also disapproved of our relationship because of Chloe Reed's illness. In a fit of anger, I simply cut ties with my family, and stayed in River Bend City, guarding her. I owed my family too much. Now, I just wanted to go home, to see my parents as soon as possible. They were my only safe harbor in this world. After booking a flight for that evening, I completely closed the apartment door. I had originally planned to text Chloe Reed, asking her to deal with her belongings in the apartment, and once she moved out, I would then instruct an agent to sell the place. Unexpectedly, her call came through, her voice tinged with anger. Come to the bridal shop right now. I want to change my wedding dress, and the staff says they need your approval. Before I could even speak, she hung up. Well, it's better to end a 5-year relationship face-to-face for the sake of dignity. As soon as I pushed open the bridal shop door, I saw Chloe Reed standing aggressively with her arms crossed in front of a staff member, who was awkwardly explaining, "Mrs. Miller, the wedding is this weekend. If you want to change the style now, we won't have time to rush the work. If there's no time, then postpone the wedding. Either way, I am getting married in the wedding dress Julian designed for me." Julian Thorne again. Chloe Reed's wedding dress was a designer custom piece. I'd eaten instant noodles for 3 months to afford that dress. Now, she just said she didn't want it. In her eyes, there was only Julian Thorne. Julian Thorne raised an eyebrow when he saw me, glancing at me disdainfully. Ethan Miller. Julian Thorne endured pain last night to design this wedding dress for me, and I am going to wear it. I don't care. You tell them. I glanced at the crude design sketch. A short skirt with a deep V-neck. Was her Julian trying to turn her wedding into a farce? The staff member was sweating with anxiety. "Mr. Miller, your suit matches your fiancée's dress, so if she changes, yours will also need alterations." I nodded. The wedding was cancelled anyway, so this suit was useless. What she wanted to custom order was none of my concern. "I told you he'd agree to let me decide." "Julian, check which suit matches my wedding dress." Chloe Reed clearly didn't understand my expression. I sat on the sofa, wanting to find a chance to clarify things with her, but she kept picking out suits and holding them up against Julian Thorne. The woman who used to scream if I came within half a meter was now intimately holding another man's arm, completely at ease. The staff member awkwardly retreated, and other staff members came to gawk. Soon, Chloe Reed picked out 4 or 5 satisfactory suits and handed them to Julian Thorne. "Julian, quickly try these on. These ones suit you best." Julian Thorne feigned refusal, but his eyes mocked me. "It's not right for me to try them on when the groom is sitting right there. The groom should try them. He looks the same in anything, unlike you who works out every day. You just returned to the country, I'll have more chances to wear suits." Chloe Reed, while disdainfully speaking of me, casually pulled out a suit and tossed it next to me. "You can just wear this one." Julian Thorne smugly raised an eyebrow at me, then turned, innocently raising his plastered hand to Chloe Reed. "It's okay, Julian, it'll help you try it on, your hand isn't convenient." Chloe Reed actually hugged the suit and pushed Julian Thorne to go into the fitting room with her. In the heat, Julian Thorne was still wearing thin shorts, and Chloe Reed was about to go in and help him take off his pants to try on clothes, in front of so many people. "Don't mind us, Chloe Reed is just used to thinking of me." Julian Thorne provocatively shrugged at me. Only then did Chloe Reed finally turn to look at me, her face darkening. "You're not going to be petty about this too, are you? You saw, his hand is injured." I let out a sarcastic laugh. "I have no objection." What objection could I possibly have? Chloe Reed and I were completely unrelated now. The fitting room on the first floor had a fabric curtain, and was not soundproof at all. Inside, Chloe Reed's astonished compliments kept coming. "Your physique is so good. Unlike him, he refuses to exercise." To earn money, I had always been very busy. Yet even so, I never let Chloe Reed do any housework. Every day, I was busy from early morning till late night, and still had to cook and do laundry at home. All that affection I gave her had now turned into arrows piercing me. "I'll do my pants myself." Julian Thorne's suppressed voice came from inside the fitting room. "You're the one who's shy. Have you forgotten who helped you wipe down your body these past few days?" Chloe Reed said with a giggle. The staff behind me gasped softly, and the salesperson who had tried to stop Chloe Reed earlier sympathetically brought me a glass of water. It felt like an eternity, but they finally emerged. Chloe Reed pointed at the suits and looked at me disdainfully. "I want all 4 of these, plus the one I just gave you. You don't need to try it on, do you? You look the same in anything, just make do. Pay for it." The staff member packing the clothes instantly widened their eyes, and even Julian Thorne watched me with a relaxed air. They actually expected me to pay for this man. I had been thinking of giving this relationship a dignified end face-to-face, but it turned out this relationship was nothing more than a personal ATM in her eyes. Seeing me motionless, Chloe Reed walked towards me, stopping about half a meter away. I clearly saw her arm begin to tremble slightly. She hadn't recovered. She clearly still had an aversion to me. "I am already grateful Chloe helped me choose. It's not like I don't have money. Consider your outfits my wedding gift to you. Julian Thorne handed a card to the staff, then walked over and naturally pulled Chloe Reed into his embrace, affectionately kissing her hair. She was only immune to Julian Thorne. So useless. Then you go postpone the wedding date, I'll be busy, taking care of Julian recently anyway. Chloe Reed frowned in disgust, ordering me. I smiled silently, shaking my head. Was I the one who stole someone else's relationship? Thankfully, I didn't wake up too late. I cancelled the wedding reception yesterday. I told you yesterday, Chloe Reed, we're breaking up. I only came here to tell you to move your belongings out of my place as soon as possible so I can sell the house. What are you making a scene about now? Chloe Reed shrieked, jumping out of Julian Thorne's embrace and pointing at me. Me, making a scene. In their pure relationship, I was always the unreasonable one. I let out a relieved laugh. Let's part amicably, I wish you both well. Admitting you loved the wrong person and letting go gracefully, there's nothing wrong with that. Too lazy to watch her face change expressions anymore. I pushed my luggage and turned to walk out of the bridal shop. Behind me, Chloe Reed incessantly shrieked curses. Ethan Miller. If you dare to leave, I'll marry Julian Thorne. Don't you dare regret this. I waved my hand behind me and closed the door, cutting off her hysteria. Goodbye, my 5 years of foolish devotion. I watched as Chloe Reed's calls flooded in, and texts poured in like a stream, from if I wanted to be with him. You wouldn't have been in the picture long ago, to I was wrong. Please come back. I promise you, I'll never see him again after he recovers. Okay. I sent my flight information to Helen Miller, then simply took out my phone's SIM card, and threw it directly into the trash, once and for all, so she couldn't get a new number, and harass me, on the way. I imagined many scenarios for meeting my parents at the airport, and even thought about how to apologize to Helen Miller. For these 5 years, she had been caught between William Miller and me. It was too hard on her. Unexpectedly, it was Ms. Davis, my father's secretary, who came to pick me up. Helen Miller had bypass surgery and is recovering. We've kept it from you all this time. We didn't expect you to suddenly come back. I awkwardly went to Helen Miller's bedside and saw her pale face, still trying her best to force a smile for me. In that moment, a rush of grievances and guilt overwhelmed me. I rushed forward and sobbed uncontrollably. Helen Miller stroked my hair, comforting me. Everyone gets sick sometimes. The doctor says I am recovering very well. I would have been discharged in a few more days even if you hadn't come back. Why didn't you tell me? I sobbed, asking her why such a big thing had been kept from me. What good would telling you do? Could you have abandoned your girlfriend and come back? If you were going to come back, you would have done so sooner. William Miller snorted and turned his face away. I looked up at him. His temples had gone grey. For 5 years, as the only child in the family, all I did was defy them, and secretly take their financial support from family. I had done nothing for them. I owed my family too much. Helen Miller's attending physician pushed the door open, and I was momentarily stunned when I saw her. It was Eleanor Smith, my high school diskmate. She actually became a doctor. She pulled me outside the ward, explaining Helen Miller's condition while also scolding me for being completely unaware that Helen Miller's heart had always been weak. I kept nodding, glancing at Helen Miller, who was lying in bed but smiling happily because I had returned, and I made up my mind. I would never leave them again. Under Eleanor Smith's careful treatment, Helen Miller was soon discharged from the hospital. I also moved back home, preparing various healing broths for Helen Miller every day according to traditional herbal remedies. Chloe Reed was very picky about food. For those 5 years, I never allowed her into the kitchen, which led me to develop excellent cooking skills. The meals that Chloe Reed always found fault with were met with nothing but praise from Helen Miller. William Miller, seeing that I had no intention of leaving after coming back, simply dragged me to the company to take over the business. Ms. Davis, his secretary, said that in recent years, William Miller and Helen Miller's health had declined, and they had long wanted to let go of the company and travel the world with Helen Miller. From a young age, William Miller had trained me to take over the company, including my college major. This was also why I was able to leave my family and still earn enough money to support Chloe Reed. Taking over the family business again was complicated, and while it went relatively smoothly, it still kept my time fully occupied. Fortunately, Eleanor Smith came to my house every week to check on William Miller and Helen Miller, alleviating many of my worries. If not for a mutual friend gossiping via text, I might not have even thought about those 5 years and the person named Chloe Reed. I thought Chloe Reed would simply marry Julian Thorne, but she didn't. She just called everyone we had invited to the wedding, saying I had some issues and the wedding date had to be postponed. I don't know why she said postponed. Perhaps she wanted to postpone her wedding with Julian Thorne, but none of this concerned me anymore. Hearing news of her again, my heart felt no ripple. I had fully immersed myself in the company's new business expansion initiatives. I had no time for old acquaintances or past events. Finally, I led my team in a 2-month battle, securing the new business completely before the company's annual meeting, and also received an investment offer from Smith Corporation, located in the same city. That night, I celebrated with my team, drinking until midnight. Fearing I'd disturb my parents, I simply returned to the company. Sitting by the office's floor-to-ceiling window, I suddenly felt a bit lonely. Although the subsequent investment negotiations with Smith Corporation were more important, I still wanted someone to share this current joy with. I figured you'd be here. The office door was knocked upon, and a smiling female voice came from behind me. I turned my head, smoothing out my furrowed brow. It was Eleanor Smith. She walked in holding a thermos. Aunt Helen asked me to bring you some ham-over soup. She poured out the ham-over soup herself, and handed it to me. Drink up quickly. Once done, my task is complete, and I can report back to Aunt Helen. She had a very good relationship with Helen Miller. If it weren't for the fact that we were diskmates in high school, and I was certain she'd never been to my house, I would even suspect she already knew William Miller and Helen Miller. I don't know if it was because of her profession, but Eleanor Smith's smile was very gentle. Every time I saw it, I felt a strange sense of peace. The night was dazzling and hazy, fueled by alcohol. I moved closer to her and suddenly asked, "Why did you become a doctor?" She visibly froze for a moment, then frantically turned her head away. I took another step closer, turning her face to make her look directly at me. "Is it because of me?" She nodded, then quickly shook her head. "What good would it do if it was for you? You already broke your promise." Hot tears streamed down her cheeks, dripping onto the back of my hand. I released her hand as if I had been burned. It really was because of me. That year, during my senior year of high school, after evening study, some thugs harassed Eleanor Smith. Without thinking, I rushed over and got into a brawl with them. One of the thugs pulled out a small knife during the chaos and stabbed me. It wasn't very serious, but seeing blood, the thugs scattered and fled, leaving Eleanor Smith sobbing uncontrollably. For this, the school praised me for my bravery, but some teachers also suspected we were dating. Eleanor Smith had no choice but to secretly come to the hospital to see me. I remember that day. She was sobbing breathlessly on my hospital bed. "I thought you were going to die." I was terrified. I couldn't do anything. "I am going to be a doctor. I can't let anything happen to you." Wiping her tears, I teased her. "Even if you become a doctor, you can't take care of me every day. How about this? If you become a doctor, I'll put up with the hardship and marry you." Unexpectedly, someone held onto a joke from back then for 10 years. Eleanor Smith seemed to throw caution to the wind, grabbing the hand I had withdrawn. "Ethan Miller, don't you dare try to avoid this. I waited for you for 10 years, 10 whole years." She sobbed uncontrollably. I looked at her face, red from crying, and as if by some strange impulse, I leaned in and kissed her. The second before my lips touched hers, the office phone abruptly rang. We both sprang apart as if woke up from a long dream. It was the security guard downstairs, saying someone was looking for me, and since it was after hours, they didn't dare let anyone in casually. I awkwardly grabbed my jacket, and Eleanor Smith haphazardly packed the thermos. We hurried downstairs. The person anxiously pacing in the lobby was. It was Chloe Reed. Chloe Reed rushed over gleefully, but upon seeing Eleanor Smith behind me, her face instantly darkened. She directly pulled Eleanor Smith forward. "I knew there was a reason you broke up with me, and cancelled the wedding. It was this bitch who seduced him, wasn't it?" Eleanor Smith hadn't recovered yet and didn't know how to react for a moment, while Chloe Reed, disregarding everything, started tearing at her, her hand swinging out for a slap to her face. I hastily raised my hand to block the blow for Eleanor Smith. Without thinking, I pulled Chloe Reed away and directly threw her out. I had thrown her so hard that she lay on the ground, unable to get up, glaring at me resentfully. "Ethan Miller, you actually hit me for this, bitch. I knew you didn't abandon me for no reason. Julian was just an excuse you made up. That's enough." Just because you're involved with other men, you think everyone else in the world is as filthy as you. We broke up a long time ago. If you harass me again, don't blame me for calling the police. I yelled while carefully checking Eleanor Smith, and only after confirming she wasn't hurt did I help her walk towards the door. But Chloe Reed clung desperately to my pants from the ground. 5 years, and you wouldn't even touch me, but now is so eager to embrace another woman, and you say you didn't betray me. Security. Remember this person. Don't let her in again. I calmly gave the order to expel her, but I couldn't pull my leg free. Instead of letting go, she gripped me even tighter, her tone turning into a wail, yelling at me. Ethan Miller, actually yelling at me, for this woman. Our 5 years together, it just throwing them away. I know you mind me being Julian's caregiver, but those videos were all staged. I didn't actually touch him. I really didn't. She couldn't continue, and looked up at my expression. Staged. The whole world saw the video of her hand, reaching under Julian's covers to wipe him down. At the bridal shop, everyone heard her shyly admit she had wiped that man's body. Now she thinks a couple of casual lies will make me believe her. Does she really take me for a fool? I promise I'll never see him again. Won't that be enough? Let's get back together, Ethan Miller. I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. I snorted coldly, finally pulling my leg free from her grip, and casually put my arm around Eleanor Smith's waist. Unexpectedly, Eleanor Smith also leaned into me cooperatively. I am not interested in whatever happened between you and that man. As you can see, I am his girlfriend now. If you keep pestering him, I will definitely call the police, and don't blame me for embarrassing you then. The security guard timely blocked Chloe Reed, who was still trying to rush forward. I put my arm around Eleanor Smith, and got into the car. The intoxicating moment in the office earlier, coupled with haphazardly using her as a shield, Eleanor Smith and I were too embarrassed to speak a word throughout the ride. I don't know where Helen Miller heard about this, but for the next few weeks, she came to the company to oversee things. In the beginning of our relationship, Chloe Reed was very disrespectful to Helen Miller. Now, wanting to humbly beg her, Chloe Reed was subjected to even more humiliating treatment, and I never once spoke up to stop it from beginning to end. Perhaps because my stance was so firm, Chloe Reed completely gave up pestering me, and never appeared again. The investment negotiations with Smith Corporation went unexpectedly smoothly. William Miller was essentially semi-retired, and Helen Miller's health had almost fully recovered. They began doing what every Chinese parent excels at: arrange dates and pressure to marry. You have to see her whether you want to or not. Tonight is the annual meeting. Are you going to stop Smith Corporation's heiress from attending? William Miller mockingly teased me while putting on his suit. I also hadn't expected them to arrange an arranged date for me, with the only child of Smith Corporation. I hadn't seen Mr. Smith's daughter throughout the entire negotiation. I heard she had her own career, and no interest in taking over the family business. So Mr. Smith was constantly scouring the world for a son-in-law. You can't sell your son just to expand the company, can you? I rolled my eyes at William Miller, and walked into the annual meeting venue. I didn't see my arranged date, only Eleanor Smith, wearing a well-tailored gown, holding Mr. Smith's arm. Ever since that awkward night, we had intentionally avoided each other. Seeing her again, she was breathtakingly beautiful. Still haven't made up your mind? Mr. Smith patted Eleanor Smith's arm and winked at me. It was then that I suddenly realized, my arranged date was actually Eleanor Smith. As a child, I only knew her family was well off, and mine was quite good too, so I never paid much attention to those things. After I went to college, I never returned, completely unaware of the backgrounds of my father's business partners. No wonder Eleanor Smith was so close to Helen Miller. They had known each other for a long time. Marry Eleanor Smith. At that moment, she shyly nestled in my embrace as we glided across the dance floor. Suddenly, it felt like a good choice. 10 years. How many decades in a lifetime can be spent waiting? I unconsciously tightened my grip on her hand. At the engagement ceremony, I still saw Chloe Reed. Having not seen her for a few months, she exuded an aura of haggardness and decay. Her vacant eyes suddenly lit up the moment she saw me walk out, arm in arm with Eleanor Smith. Disregarding everything, she broke free from the security guard and relatives who were holding her back, and rushed straight onto the stage, throwing herself into my arms. It seemed she really had recovered. Not only did she not keep half a meter away from me, She didn't even scream when the security guard had trouble touching her. In a way, it was a perfect conclusion. I reached out and pushed her away, with a tear-streaked face. She said to me, "I thought you were just trying to spite me. I never thought you'd actually marry this woman. Have you forgotten? You said you'd only love me." She tried to lean in again, but a security guard had already pulled her away. From behind, unwilling to give up, she continued to plead with me, "Let's get back together. I am willing to marry you." IVE completely cut ties with Julian Thorne. I promise I'll never see him again. I was wrong. "Ethan Miller, you said you'd only love me." I coldly interrupted her. "The Ethan Miller, who only loved you, died a long time ago. He died the moment you abandoned him to rehearse the wedding alone. I don't need to find someone to spite you. Stop harassing me. Have you no shame left?" She clearly hadn't expected me to be so heartless. Suddenly, like a madwoman, she grabbed Helen Miller's hand. "Aunt Helen, wasn't it because of my illness that you didn't allow us to be together? I am better now." I recovered a few days before Julian Thorne returned to the country. I wanted to give Ethan Miller a surprise. "Aunt Helen, please agree to let us get back together." Enough. I cut her off. "So that's it. I suspect she wasn't actually cured a long time ago." She still showed nervousness and fear when I touched her later. She simply didn't love the old me, which is why she instinctively resisted my touch. Her trauma-induced anxiety, it was all just an excuse. Finally, Eleanor Smith nodded towards the outside from beside me, and the security guards directly dragged Chloe Reed out, finally ending the farce. After the ceremony, William Miller pulled me aside, and apologetically kept apologizing to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, however, magnanimously waved his hand. "I can't help it either. My daughter hasn't had eyes for anyone else since college. She's absolutely set on your boy. What can I do?" Under the elders' good-natured teasing, I saw Eleanor Smith's 10 years of waiting and unrequited love. She quietly reached out and wiped away the tears from the corner of my eye. The next day, I listed the house I had shared with Chloe Reed for sale. Unexpectedly, the agent called that afternoon to say that Chloe Reed wanted to buy it. I knew perfectly well whether Chloe Reed had money or not. She hadn't worked for so many years, and her entire family practically lived off me. How could she possibly afford to buy a house? But we had broken up in the end, so it didn't matter who bought the house. I was afraid Chloe Reed was just trying to lure me back and entangle me again. So I asked the agent to notify me only after receiving the down payment, before I came back to complete the paperwork. The next day, the agent called frantically, saying Chloe Reed was no longer buying it. Over the phone, I could still hear Julian Thorne's furious roar. He completely disregarded Chloe Reed's feelings, constantly cursing her. "It's already a favor that I am willing to be with a tramp like you, and you still want to use my card to buy a place you lived in with another man. Are you crazy? Have you lost your mind?" Chloe Reed was most sensitive about others mentioning her trauma-induced anxiety to her face. If it were the old me, she would have certainly jumped up and argued with me. But at that moment, she was just crying on the phone, begging Julian Thorne for money. Chloe Reed, living off a man's charity after leaving me, was not even as self-assured as when she was bleeding me dry. Since she had chosen him long ago, why was she still thinking about the house we shared? Whose stomach was she trying to turn with those memories? I smiled and hung up the phone. When the agent called me back to complete the transfer paperwork, Eleanor Smith was already 4 months pregnant. By then, I had fully taken over my family's company. Unexpectedly, my father-in-law even handed Smith Corporation over to me, and I was gradually integrating both companies under one management. My in-laws and my parents, 4 elders in total, often gathered for spontaneous trips, or eagerly awaited the birth of Eleanor Smith's and my child. In the year I had been with Eleanor Smith, I finally learned what it meant to be loved and to love, a stark contrast to my days with Chloe Reed. She showed me my own worth, letting me know that I was also worthy of being loved. Eleanor Smith insisted on accompanying me to complete the transfer paperwork, saying she wanted to see the place I had lived before. I guessed it was due to unstable pregnancy hormones affecting her trust in me. After landing, I didn't glance back at the home Chloe Reed and I had shared for 5 years. Instead, I went directly to the real estate agency, signed the papers, and completed the transfer. Seeing my wife beside me, the agent seized the opportunity to discreetly pull me aside and ask what to do with the wedding photos hanging in the house. Those wedding photos, with us standing half a meter apart, were a vivid portrayal of my 5-year relationship that was only a marriage in name. They were still there, I shook my head, motioning for him to just throw them away. When we got the money, Eleanor Smith was as happy as if we had won a huge lottery prize. Property prices had recovered in recent years, and the house indeed turned a small profit. To celebrate, my wife and I went to a French restaurant. What a letdown. As soon as we entered, I saw Julian Thorne, but the woman beside him wasn't Chloe Reed. They broke up so quickly. Wasn't it a childhood sweetheart love? In recent years, I'd occasionally hear news about Julian Thorne, mostly unfavorable reports about a fallen genius painter whose work wasn't living up to expectations, perhaps due to his injured right hand. Julian Thorne, however, greeted me quite openly. Well, look what we have here. What a coincidence. Is this your wife? Pregnant already? Not bad. I rolled my eyes at him, wrapping my arm around my wife's waist, trying to act as if I hadn't seen him. Clearly, he had quite a bit to drink, and relentlessly raised his voice from behind me. Why are you acting like I'm your enemy? You should be thanking me for getting rid of that trauma-induced anxiety for you. If it weren't for me, who knows what she would have put you through by now. Trauma-induced anxiety. Julian Thorne's female companion clearly knew Chloe Reed as well, and echoed his words with a couple of mocking laughs, drawing stares from everyone around us. I took my wife's hand and walked to the last table, hoping to avoid him, but to my surprise, he just got louder. Sorry. You are the one who should be sorry to me. When I found out you left, Chloe Reed was practically insane, looking for you. Then she saw you go home on TV, rushed to your place, and came back completely unhinged. She blamed me for everything, saying you stopped loving her because of me. What does that have to do with me? She was the one who insisted on clinging to me. When have I, Julian Thorne, ever been short of women? And now, great, I can't get rid of her. Who can't you get rid of? A sharp female voice cut through his mockery. It was Chloe Reed, charging in on high heels. She had changed. On such a cold day, she wore a form-fitting mini dress with a deep V-neck, her chest practically spilling out. Without a glance, she grabbed the woman next to Julian Thorne and slapped her across the face, back and forth. I drank with those old men for you, made them buy your paintings, and here you are, spending the money I earned to support other women. I never imagined that Chloe Reed, who once had panic attacks when men got close to her, was now working as a hostess, drinking with older men. The woman screamed as Chloe Reed hit her, while Julian Thorne watched, a twisted smile in his eyes, making no move to stop them. Finally, a waiter pulled the two apart. The woman, deeply disappointed with Julian Thorne, ran out crying. Chloe Reed still tried to grab Julian Thorne, but he raised his glass toward me. See, if I hadn't saved you, this crazy woman would be tormenting you right now. Confused, Chloe Reed also looked in our direction. After realizing it was my wife and me, she screamed, tugging at her clothes, trying to cover her revealing outfit. Finally, she snatched Julian Thorne's scarf and wrapped it around herself. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, she abruptly fled the restaurant. Dinner was out of the question, so I simply put my arm around my wife and left the place. Once outside, my wife sighed for a long time. I also never expected that we would end up like this. I turned my head, wondering if Chloe Reed had disappeared into the crowd, or was hiding somewhere, spying on me, but none of that mattered anymore. That person was completely irrelevant to me now. I looked down at my wife, nestled in my arms. What I held in my hands now was my future.